All right, welcome back. FBI files on Martin Luther King Jr. exposed what they didn't want you to see. We're looking at a report on the Associated Press, apnews.com, and it says the Trump administration on Monday released records of the FBI's surveillance of Martin Luther King Jr. despite opposition from the slain Nobel laureate's family and the civil rights group that he led until his 1968 assassination. The digital document dump includes more than 240,000 pages of records that had been under a court-imposed seal since 1977, when the FBI first gathered the records and turned them over to the National Archives and Records Administration. In a lengthy statement released Monday, King's two living children, Martin III, 67, and Bernice, 62, said their father's assassination has been a captivating, quote-unquote, captivating public curiosity for decades. But the pair emphasized the personal nature of the matter, urging that, quote, these files must be viewed within their full historical context. Oh, that's important. The Kings got advance access to the records and had their own teams reviewing them. Those efforts continued even as the government granted public access. It was not immediately clear Monday whether the documents would shed any new light on King's life, the civil rights movement, or his murder. And I quote, as the children of Dr. King and Mrs. Coretta Scott King's, his tragic death has been an intensely personal grief, a devastating loss for his wife, children, and the granddaughter he never met. An absence our family has endured for over 57 years. They wrote, we ask those who engage with this release of these files to do so with empathy, restraint, and respect for our family's continued grief. They also repeated the family's long-held contention that James Earl Ray, the man convicted of assassinating King, was not solely responsible, if at all. Bernice King was 5 years old when her father was killed at the age of 39. Martin III was 10. A statement from the Office of Director of National Intelligence Toshi Gabbard called the disclosure unprecedented and said many of the records had been digitized for the first time. She praised President Trump for pushing the issue. Releases transparency to some, a distraction for others. I have a question for you, sir.
Yes. Thank God your last sentence there is touching on my feeling about the whole thing.
Yes.
But good thing that this is released. Maybe we also need to respect the request of Martin Luther King Jr.'s families that, this is so personal to them. And It's not just personal to them. Even those of us that were born after, some years after the assassination of Reverend King in 1968, we also deal with the trauma of having such a peaceful civil rights icon eliminated, crimped the way they did to him. But let me tell you, those were the years of Senator Joseph McCarthy. That is not, with this instinct to hunt. You know, the peak of Jim Crow, to hunt, to launch after persons of African descent and colored individuals whom they label the Reds, that is, communist sympathizers in this country. Not just him, the then director of FBI, Edgar Hoover, all of them, they knew what they were about. People were harassed, people were surveyed, and some of our forebears who came here as international students, but who had strong convictions, believing the false narrative that ultimately America is the land to behold when it comes to human rights standards. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. We had somebody in our family who was James, who rejected that name because, I mean, yes, because of the first-hand exposure. And he wrote very interesting poems about that when he returned to Africa and embraced and owned his African real names. So this is more than anybody would want to characterize as, Donald Trump has done King Martin Luther King a favor or the civil rights movement a favor. Because on the other hand, you see all kinds of reversals that he is setting against the achievements arising from the assassination of the late Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. You can see all that firsthand. I mean, all these things about talking about a sense of entitlement to people that have been given just a helping hand in order to be able to stand within the system, that were demonized as being for DEI or whatever they call it. Those people, you spite people on one hand, on the other, you are trying to do things to say that, oh, you are for their interest. Nobody is easily taken in by all this. And why did I characterize this release as a kind of distraction? What were we talking about before now? Denigration and degradation.
Of your own people.
Not just of our denigration and degradation of immigrants in this country.
Of immigrants.
Initially, yes, they said it's a promise made during campaign and is a promise kept during governance. But what they said, which we have always believed to be a deception, a lie, all along, was that, they will be sending packing immigrants that do not have proper documentation and who have committed one crime or the other. But from what they do these days, you can even be accosted on the road, anywhere. Whether you have U.S. citizenship or not, you will first be thoroughly humiliated. I mean, the promise, did they extend to the fact that a whole senator who would demand accountability from the Secretary of Homeland will be brought down, handcuffed, and paraded before the world media. Just as we witnessed in California, did it extend to the fact that National Guard will be brought in and even back it up with draft of Marines? That was not the expectation. So that was playing on, and then the allegation there and the demand from MAGA and everybody, also some Democrats, saying they needed the file on the so-called sex trafficking with an associate of Donald Trump, who was alleged to have died in questionable circumstances while in prison. That was the debate. All of a sudden, this one is brought up now. And you saw the distractions after the immigration deportation fiasco in Los Angeles, in the state of California. Another distraction that came before that was the intervention, the involvement of the United States in the Iran-Israeli military face-off, the bombing of the nuclear facilities, in Tehran and other places in Iran. Yes, we all will unite against enemies, foreign and domestic, in the United States. But these are distractions too many.
But isn't the government designed to prioritize transparency?
Well,
regardless of how long it took. I understand that
transparency is supposed to be wholesale. And from the look of things, if you followed the story of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., like I've told you, the harassment against him by the United States institution in those days, not just against him, also against people like Elijah Muhammad, people like Malcolm X, and so on and so forth. You would understand.
Okay,
You would understand.
just to
It was a
spell
set pattern.
just to spell this out properly, right?
Yes.
In your opinion, what would have been what would be the potential consequences of this? Because the general public are getting ready to start reviewing this, and they'll start extracting stuff any moment, right?
Well,
What would be the potential consequences?
if there is any smoke screen detected through this, the only thing it will do or it will assist is that never again should something like that ever happen. But as to getting some people to face justice, the generation that perpetrated that, almost all of them are gone. So who are you holding accountable? The institution, maybe by way of reparation or compensation for that family.
For the family.
We don't know. Yeah, if there is an indictment and any possible link of government to that may come. But as to any far-reaching stuff, is it the same government, the present government in the United States, that is towing the same line that was told by Senator McCarthy, by Edgar Hoover, people who made sure they came after people of color, the way they are coming after people of color under this administration? What kind of justice are you expecting from them? It's a white goose chase.
Now, for those who always question why should the government be hiding stuff in the first place, for like classified information and stuff, just for educational purposes, why does the government hide this type of stuff in the first place?
I cannot provide. I cannot provide any justification for them because I am big about full disclosure and transparency. Even some of you who are my associates, some of you who are my family, you caution me about disclosing too much. Right. But the truth of the matter is that I know the world gains more. The world is a better place through more transparency. When you see people are so opaque, especially people who would attack media institutions, journalists, because they feel journalists disclose too much, you need to fear them. You need to be apprehensive of them, because what they are always hiding is because of their corruption, which may be innate, which may be institutional, which may be personal to some extent. So that is why we encourage transparency. And why must that be transparency? It makes for a more egalitarian society, a society where everybody has equal access and there is no deception as to what quantum of national resources ought to go for the care of the country and its citizens, instead of taking care of a personal aggrandizement. And from the foregoing, you will understand that personal aggrandizement is part of the mantra of this current government in the United States, also in Nigeria, so many places in the whole world. Nobody wants to be held. Are you listening?
I'm listening.
Nobody wants to. Yes, I can hear you. Nobody wants to be held accountable the way they ought to. And everything you read in the books about fundamental human rights, checks and balances, rule of law, and so on and so forth, you find out that more often than not, they are utopia. And we need to continue to pursue a more transparent situation. But with this government in the United States, honestly, I think their mendacity is beyond anything anybody can imagine. Their opaqueness is beyond what anybody can imagine. Otherwise, they will not be coming after the civil rights reforms triggered by the assassination. The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Those gains have been lost, and that is what they wrap up euphemistically as "Make America great again." Make America great again. It's nothing other than, they want to return to Jim Crow. They want to return to years of subjugation, years of dehumanization, years of enslaving people that they think are not as strong or do not have the same color as they have. So you see the moral hypocrisy there.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Well, it seems like transparency, the battle between transparency and privacy is is always a
Yes.
tension, you know.
No, there's a thin line, but remove it, the world will be better. But
When it
what we're
comes
saying is
when it comes to
that
politics and government, at
yes.
least. Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Somebody is telling you I will deal with this situation in 2 weeks' time, but overnight,
Yeah.
bombing. That
Yeah.
is what we're talking about there. Yes,
Mm.
some wisdom about not putting all your cards on the table, but also some wisdom about the hypocrisy, the deception that is the thing that defines human essence or the human
You
mind
know
at times.
why? You know
Yes,
why? Because of context, right?
yes,
Like
yes.
for example, somebody said the content the family asked for proper context when you're reviewing this stuff, historical context, because the times are obviously different and many things will be different too, right?
That's
So
right.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Martin, Dr. Martin Luther King. I mean, I don't want us to dissipate too much energy
Mhm.
or thought on this, but you will remember that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a phenomenon. One, he lived for the cause of peace. He was passive resistance personified. The only other character in history that was as good as Martin Luther King Jr. when it comes to passive resistance and not getting violent about rejecting injustices and
Right.
domination and oppression will be the late Indian leader Mahatma Gandhi. You know, he was foremost about that too. But what we're saying here is that in the time the period Martin Luther King Jr. lived and was assassinated, he was so big about campaigning against the war of America in Vietnam. He was against the inhuman treatment being meted out to not just blacks, but all colored individuals, and then people that were referred to as white trash at that time. He wanted for them a good deal. Remember the strike concerning people who were driving trucks that used to remove trash and all kinds of stuff in the neighborhood. The poor pay, and how he was always looking for good trouble, but not being confrontational, but resisting. And this prediction that the time will come that there will be the unity of black, white, all kinds of people at the table of brotherhood. Remember all those things they said. Even the prediction, the night he was killed in Memphis, when he said it didn't matter to him. Yes, I'm just paraphrasing. There
Paraphrasing.
was a place for longevity, but that it did not matter to him that his eyes had seen the coming of the glory of the Lord, and that he had seen the promised land. He may not get in there with the rest of humanity, but that he would be able to join. I mean, to say that everything was getting better and better. That would be the context to the whole thing.
Right.
And for people who were so egged in making sure that people were not truly free, what would they
Is
want?
it that will be the context or that should be the context?
It should be that would be a context for what happened. And in the
Okay.
time and age in which we live, the person who is declassifying this, is this somebody can be truly said? Is he doing it to mock the memory of Martin Luther King Jr., or is doing it honestly to just make sure that America doesn't go back to that? But that is what he wants. That is the kind of life he wants for America, where people would suspect each other, where people would hate each other, where people. So that is why I said it's a distraction, and it is hypocrisy of the worst order.
All right, let's leave it at that. Join the conversation in the chat, everybody. Welcome, Marriott. I see you, Marriott. Join the conversation. We need to get on to the main story of the day, Senator Natasha. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. We will be right back.